So I know this is a test that a lot of you guys have been waiting for. This is the penetration testing, the calculation of the wound channel, and the quartering shots. Um, all, in my opinion, very important stuff. Like I said in the previous video, the highest ranking thing for me is accuracy and field point accuracy, or group size and field point accuracy. But this is a very close second. So we've ended up. I tested a bunch of different ways. I shot through a bunch of different media, trying to come up with something that was very consistent and made the most sense. So I just finally ended up breaking down and purchasing a bunch of FBI gel, which not cheap, $1,000 worth of gel basically, and we got a very high grade MDF board that had very super consistent density across, and use that to mimic like a rib bone of a deer. Okay, we know it's not the same as a rib bone of a deer, and we did that so that the broadheads that were mechanical would open the right way, so on and so forth. But it gave us a very good overall idea of how well that head is going to penetrate. Again, FBI gel is not cavity. Something that penetrates 12 inches on a FBI gel, more than likely pass through very easily on a deer. So, these things are designed to stop bullets. Anyway, so don't focus on the actual number, but try to look into it. Try to see past the number and what it's telling you. At the end of this particular video, the next video is going to be my review of the entire broadhead test and which heads I found performed well and what I thought and what my top picks were. So this was a painstaking task to perform. I had to really make sure that the bow was dialed in perfectly and I was able to hit the mark. Okay. One, to conserve gels because they're not cheap at all. And two, that make sure we aren't crossing wound channels or anything like that. And actually, I'd rather do it from point, because the points are all different. 15 and that's about 16. And 11/16, 15 and 11. Oh, what did I say? Kept having to measure, remeasure. Took us a long time to make sure that we were giving you the most accurate. Sometimes we had to reshoot them. It was quite the process. Originally, I thought I could just measure from the back, and then I started thinking about it, that we needed to measure from the back, the actual tip, because some of the broadheads were longer than others, and we weren't measuring from the end of the arrow to the to the entrance. 13 and 7/8, and it had three-quarters of rotation. So originally I was going to take the time and do a lot of slow-mo shots and do a lot of really cool stuff, but I felt like the important part was the information, and really we're just doing the video so you can see the effort and time that went into doing this, and that we actually went through it and didn't just make it up. So sorry, the production value isn't exactly what you normally watch when you watch my stuff, but we did this mainly to show you and give you an idea of what we went into it to get you all this data. Alien Archery V.
What is this called?
Alien Archery Matrix. 14 inches. That's the center. Okay. 13 and a quarter on the sever.
Server?
Sever, yes.
SEVER?
Alright. 13 and a half on the Hurricane. All right, so we have the Ozcut 2-blade. So far the champion, I think. 16 and 7/8. Annihilator, 14 and a quarter. Okay, I know this is one of the parts you've all been waiting for. Everybody wants to hear about penetration and wound channel. So, as you can see here, we this is in inches. This is how many inches they all penetrated. But what's important to look at this is what. Don't just look at the how many inches it penetrated. Don't just consider that. This is important, and we'll get into why we scored the way we scored. But okay, let's take the Ramcat hybrid. Okay, very low, 12.6. Okay, 38.92. You know, it's does much more damage. Okay, so definitely take into consideration that. So the Schwacker hybrid, okay, 13.18 and 40.97. Don't just look at one and not look at the other, because let's say the Ozcut 2-blade, okay, this had the highest penetration, but one of the lowest wound infliction. Okay, take that into consideration. That's all I gotta say. So yeah, here's the results. All this will be up on the blog. You'll be able to utilize this this chart and scroll through it and look through it and whatnot. One thing I wanted to see, the scoring here, we end up not using this scoring system. What we did was and I'll go over this when I go over my results, but the penetration, we just doubled the number as the score, because we felt penetration was, most people want 2 holes versus 1, so that was important. So we just doubled all those numbers, and that was their actual score. And the wound channel, we just left that actual number of inches as their score. So another thing we did at this time is the quartering shots. So what we did here is the highest value was 12, the lowest being 4. This was a very subjective test. Every single one of the broadheads on the 45-degree angle, they hit their mark and they went through. The ones that had lower scores actually hit the board, skid along the board a little bit. You could tell there was a tear in the carpet, and then entered. So the probability of them deflecting were greater because the point of the head was not entering into the animal or into the target for this particular thing before it moved alongside of it, if that makes sense to you. So this is the only thing that had a correlation to the kinetic consumption testing that we did. And we'll talk about that in the final results. So those are your results for the penetration and quartering stuff, and the final results are to follow.